there are people, like, you're going to reach those places that you don't necessarily always get access to because of people like me, because of folks like Jose, because of folks like Linda. These are people that are bringing new folks to the theater. And by bringing new folks to the theater, you're also helping your business. So it's a very weird conversation to try to have with people. And I was trying to think of one of the questions that I had up here before, but when it comes to having to get access to these people and having to get these moments, how hard is that fight? Like, when do you finally just go, you know what, it's not worth it? When do you decide to just walk away? And when do you decide to stay?
I'm very stubborn. And the more, if someone says no to me, the more I want to do it. And recently I had an incident, for instance, where a show was about to open and I had found a perfect outlet to write a story about it. And I reached out to the publicist about getting some interviews. And they said they're doing opening night soon, so they can't do interviews right now. So I was like, okay. I reached out for opening night. They just had opening night, so they can't do any interviews. And I'm like, okay. So, with much respect to Irene and her profession, one of the best things about today is social media. So I went behind the publicist's back, I reached out to the people that I wanted to talk to on Instagram, and they gave me the interviews. But,
yeah, most publicists are lazy.
You know, and it's interesting though, because that is a technique that, you know, once you get that interview and get that moment, the question that becomes, because this is one of the reasons why I wanted Irene to be here, is that it is about the relationships that you create with publicists. Because people like Irene are the ways that we can get access to many shows. And not, you know, but it's sort of like it's a special person like Irene that makes sure that we actually get to those rooms to see those shows, if that makes any sense. You know, so for you, you know, because again, when we're talking about criticism and people writing reviews, because here's, for me, my general rule is, and this is not, you know, everyone has their own thing, which is what I want to find out about, is that if there is something that I go and see and I do not like it, and it does not appeal to me, I don't talk about it. And I don't talk about it primarily for the reasons of that there are working actors that are on that stage. If it's a musical, there's band people, there's costumes in the back, and it's like, and you don't want to mess up people's money by adding negativity to the world. However, I do make an effort, if someone were to ask me about that show, I will say to them that if you want to see that show based on whatever choices you've made, knock yourselves out. But it's not going to get my personal endorsement. And sometimes that's a good or bad thing because it makes it sound like every time you say everything, you know, it's like, oh my God, he likes everything. It's like, I like the things that I like, and that's what I do. That's what I tell you about. And I was wondering, is it the same person? Oh.
Yeah, because I just want to say, in the old days when I started, it was called reviewer, it wasn't called critic. I mean, I remember Richard Ross saying, that's not my cup of tea, but the costumes were good. And so now, everybody wants to be the talent. I'm talking about reviewers and do all the great. So they want to, you know, they want to be reviewer. And I think it's, and you're right. I think that, like if people say, I've never read a play. I read a play once in 50 years. Because my review of a play is not going to sell one ticket. And I think that, and I use the word review, and I think until we get, come back and I appreciate it, you know, because you can't, everybody may not like the way I look, you know, but I like Jasmine's braids like that. So, it's a review. It's a play, and every play, a poem, art, music is in the eyes and the ears of the beholder. But I like what you said.
Well, what I wanted to say, well, first of all, when it comes to, you know, being a theater critic, one of the people that has always been, you know, incredible to me is Irene, and she's always gotten me everybody. One of the things that I think I will remember till the day I die is that Patty LaBelle was on Broadway. Yes. And I was in an interview with her.
You were doing the PR work?
Yes, she was.
Because it's in the IMDb if y'all look it up, I'm just saying. Look it up.
What happened was I had interviewed Patty LaBelle, but prior to the interview, I had reviewed the show. So what Irene called me and she said, Linda, every performance before she goes on, she has me read it to her in the dressing room, and it lifts her spirits. And I said, oh my God, really? I was so touched, like, oh my God, kind of, oh my God. So I was just so thrilled, you know, and that couldn't have happened except for people like Irene, who would say to me, Linda, who do you want? When do you want it? Do you want to do it in person? You want to do it over the phone? How do you want to do it? Yeah. And I know that when she's involved with something, I'm getting access to everybody, which is, you know. Now, the thing you were saying about seeing a show and you don't like it, and you know, okay, I can't say that. If I see a show and I don't like it, number one, I'll never walk out. I'll sit there till the end so I can see everything that's wrong with it.
Boom.
I will write a review. And the thing you have to understand about me is that I guess doing this for 35 years, the people that read my stuff obviously have the same values as me. They have the same likes and dislikes as me. When I look at something, if there's a lot of cursing and I'm saying, okay, well, it kind of worked with the script, okay, but then if it didn't, oh, then I was offended. Those people will feel the same way I feel. So if I see something and it really offends me, I'm not going to let you go and spend your money or waste your time going into the theater to see this horrible show. I'm going to say to you, you don't want to go. Okay, this is what's wrong with it, this is what they did wrong. I mean, to me, that's part of what a theater critic does. You're there to help the show if you can, yes, by all means. But you also need to warn the public, don't do this, don't go to see this, you know. And I think the biggest show that happened to me with was the Scottsboro Awards. When the Scottsboro Awards was on Broadway, I was highly offended by that show. Really? And I wrote a huge, like, negative review. Then this group, I don't know, I guess it was some kind of like community group or whatever. They read my review and they started picketing the show for 2 weeks. Right? They were there every day telling people don't go in, it's a racist show. Eventually the show closed, right? So we went on this show, Camille Yarborough. Yeah. She had me come on and the people that did the picketing. And she was like, so Linda, what was it? I said, listen, they had a guy tap dancing going to the gas chamber, really? I mean, there was so many things about it that really just offended me. And then everybody in the audience is sitting there laughing, like, what are you laughing at? This is horrible.
But see, now for me, I had a whole different response to that show.
Me too.
Yeah, and again, that's, you know, because, and this is what I'm talking about, it's like, here we are, people of color, that have a disagreement about the same show that people are assuming that we either are going to flock to in droves, or we're going to run away from because of the theme. And for me, with that particular show, I just remember wondering why people are protesting things that they haven't seen. Because I would rather it be, you know, if you're standing out there protesting, protest because you know why that's happening. Because then when I ask you, then you can say to me, like Linda, who actually saw the show, who can break down what it was about the show herself that did not appeal to her. That's one thing. But to not go because someone else told you not to go, but then to have negative issues, feelings, or whatever about it, and you have no proof of it yourself, to me is where that becomes an issue. But I like the idea, though, that you can disagree, because, you know, let me just, now that we're on this subject matter, let me just bring it over to my friend, Ms. Jose. Now, just recently, and this was just in a Twitter moment, that well, you tell your story, I'm sorry, I'm just getting all your attention.
Yes, but you're the moderator.
See, you know? But see, I caught myself, see?
I said the story about the
inheritance.
Oh, okay. So, there was this play that I didn't particularly like very much. My problem with it was not the aesthetics or anything like that, or anything artistic, so to speak. But my problem with it was that it goes to great lengths to ensure that there's this erasure of people of color all over. And it's just a celebration of beautiful, model-type, white, gay men. And it says, you know, I think the play's subtitle is like a story about gay men today or something like that. So yeah, gay men today, if you're white and 6 foot tall and have a six-pack, basically, and are pretty wealthy, right? So I went on Twitter, and it's one of the things that I don't really talk about things that I don't like, because I feel bad about people. Like, people are just trying to make a living, right? But But if there's something that I actively think it's dangerous, like when I went to a kids show and there was a kid in blackface, for instance, then it is my responsibility to let people know that this is just wrong.
Right.
So I went on Twitter, and I had, it's the equivalent, I guess, of like the Make America Great Again bots that get activated every time someone talks about race or anything that makes them uncomfortable. And I got this like endless amount of messages on Twitter and people telling me to die, basically. Some people telling me that they would rather see me dead. My favorite one, considering that this is a play that touched on briefly on the AIDS crisis, was someone who told me that they hoped I got AIDS and died. And all of this because I was, reacting to a show that had bothered me as a person of color, as a Latino, right? And as a person who does not fit those parameters that the show celebrates so much. So, something that's very important to consider is also that I think that the best way to know that a critic is not a good critic is when they call themselves objective. There is no such thing as an objective critic, and if they call themselves that, they're probably really, really terrible at their job. Because there's nothing that's more subjective than criticism, because we have this entire history that we are carrying with us. So we react to a piece of art based on our lives and our education and our knowledge and the way that we were raised and all of that. So not that anyone's asked me for advice on this, but the best way to find a critic that you want to constantly read is to think of it as your friend. And we all go to our friends because they all have subjective opinions that we love. And find a critic that, like you were saying, that best fits your values and that best fits your the way that you see the world. But also, like, if you see like the MTA, if you see something, say something, right? Like there's like elements of racism or sexism or homophobia, or in this day and age, like basically anything that the White House would be in favor on, and if you see it in a show, tell people about it. Like, you don't want that show running.
And I say, on the other side of that, like you have Linda 35 years, you have you, how many years you been there? Well, you just have you doing, different things. And you guys are relatively new. And I try to stay current. And I recently stumbled onto a website called Black Girls Who Do Theater, which is amazing, because now everything is on Instagram or social media. So I try to keep up with that. And I personally reached out to the young lady who's sitting in the back with the white shirt, Renee. Renee, please stand up, because she because if you don't like what you see, do something about it. She didn't like what she saw, so she created her own. So now she's one of the most sought after journalists. So I'm sorry, Linda. She's going to be like talking about the Rihanna musical. I'm going to be reading her review to Rihanna, okay? But seriously, I think that, and I'm so glad to meet all of them. I'm so glad to meet you two, Jose, and I think that also the public has just like you want to buy that chicken sandwich from McDonald's, was that Popeye chicken? Or you want to buy the iPhone, if you see that in the ad, if you see something, say something, you do not have to be told what to do. And I think that for my business, and for everybody with fairness, I think I'm going to end on that note, because what time is it?
Yeah, we're rolling.
You took up all the time talking about yourself. I'm gonna let.
Well, we're like into the last like 15 minutes, but I wanted to make sure to see if we could get some questions from the audience. Yes.
Hi. First, thank you so much for being here and having this panel. I'm an Arab, I'm Muslim, I'm an actor, and I've been in shows where it was really hard to get critics to come see it because I'm just going to say it here, I'm a proud Palestinian supporter. So how do you, as people of color and like minority groups, like how do we actors, how can we access awesome critics like you to come see our work? because mainstream people, or people who don't think, or don't vibe with me, definitely do not, want to really.
Well, as a PR person who has to get critics, first thing, if you have a show, you have to ask in a timely manner. And the second thing, most critics, they don't have the space. Space, we only have a couple of papers now. So if you're looking for a review in the Times, and if you're not running over 2 performances, or, you know what I mean? So that plays a lot of it, not just because they don't want to come, because they do not have the space. I know that for a fact. And send it in a timely manner. If you have a show, don't send it 3 days before. And just keep, like what you said, persistence. Don't take no, and don't have the solution before the problem. You already have the solution, and there's no problem. Don't have the answer before the question. Just keep it. I still live by that. I still live by that.
I think something that's very important to keep in mind is that people don't really talk about how little money critics make. And we are all very, very, very poor. And it's true.
It's true.
If it wasn't... If it wasn't for the fact that this is our job, we wouldn't be able to afford going to shows, to be honest. So keep that in mind, but also, one of the things that excites me the most about seeing young artists of color nowadays is that we need to all work together to see past the way that we've been indoctrinated to think about criticism. And we all are very obsessed with one specific review from one major outlet, and it's our responsibility. All of us are in this together, and only, waiting for that, and only talking about that, and only quoting that, and only sharing that on Facebook and Twitter and wherever. So for you, I would recommend reach out to people on social media. One of the things that makes me the saddest to have to respond to people most of the time is that I would love to attend, but I cannot guarantee coverage, because I cannot cover everything that I go see, not because I don't want to, but because I'm not getting paid to do it. I don't have the outlet for it. But I would be, for instance, if someone has a blog or a personal site that where they can publish, where they want to try to reach out to them in advance. And in my case, because I go see so many things, and I also have to be, in the hustle, right, of like trying to make enough money every month to pay for my apartment and for my food. Sometimes even just like, and I've seen it, this has made me very angry in the past when someone will give me access to a show, and then I go see it on my own, and then I tweet about it, and then they use my tweet to, when they wouldn't give me access in the first place. So I would say also there's like a lot of podcasts, and we all have to think more about alternative methods of reviewing, which if you think about are not very alternative. It's like podcasting is radio.
Yeah. It's individual radio. That's
Yeah.
the best one.
So just think outside the box, and if a critic that you respect and that you appreciate their work says something about your work, even if it's in a tweet form, put it out there. Don't wait for it to be in print, a magazine, or a paper.
Thank you.
I mean, for me, what I would say is, when press agents send me press releases about a show, I mean, you were saying something about your political stuff, right?
Yeah, I was at the Fringe Festival, and even when Fringe itself was promoting other shows, we noticed our show was not being promoted. I mean, it was very, I don't know, it was a very interesting time.
I mean, but what I was going to say is when press agents send me shows, I don't know anything about the political backgrounds of the actors, and I mean, how would I know? It's just a question of, like Jose said, it's about having the time to be able to cover stuff and to put things in a priority. And like he said too, critics really don't make a lot of money. You get to see all these shows because you're a member of Drama Desk, and you have to vote on awards. So people make sure you see it because it's in their best interest that you see it also. But the main thing is if you have a good press agent. You're not going to have Irene Gandy, but if you have a good press agent working on a show, you tell them, reach out to these people. When this is over, if you want, I'll give you my email. That's fine. But that's the main thing, just to have the press people reach out to the theater critic community and send us an email and say this is going on. Because a lot of shows go on that I don't know anything about. Because they're so under the radar, no one has told me anything about it.
All right. Yes.
So, I'm Stephanie, can't read my name badge. I work for a major broadcast network, and I work in politics. I don't know how I got there. But I've been trying to talk them into letting me write for our .com site, and specifically write theater reviews because I love going to Broadway, I'm there all the time. I'm constantly giving advice to different people that we work with about like if they want to see certain shows, and I'm that person. However, they've been kind of pushing back on me, saying, well, you don't have any experience with this particular portion of the world, right? And like, why should we let you do this instead of, Karen, right?
Because Karen ain't asking.
Is anybody doing it?
Well, no.
Well,
I mean,
then
That's the other reason.
I mean, so like, there's politics involved here.
Yes.
Literally and figuratively, right? But like, it's a major broadcast network. It's one of the, BCs, right? Like one of the big three. And so, so the problem is like, oh, well, you doing that is like you wading into like entertainment. So we can send someone, from like E or Access Hollywood or whatever to like go cover that. And I'm just like, yeah, but that's a video and an interview and not necessarily a review of a show. That's not the same thing. And they're like just not getting it. Like, do you have any advice to kind of?
Yeah, that's just not true, first of all. I just finished doing Great Society with Brian Cox, and every major broadcast political reporter came and got free tickets and saw the show and told them about it. And also, because you're a person of color, there's a ruling called FCCC. And if they have nobody of color, whether it's man, woman, gay, lesbian, whatever, you need to go to, that's because that's the rule. FCC, you have to have, programming. If they don't have like community affairs or anything, and just that's what I would do. You don't have to threaten them. You just say, I'm doing it. What do you have to do? Because arts is politics, first of all. And that's all. I'm sorry.
Not at all. Yes, I feel your pain because I worked at a major place too, and they had that same issue when I wanted to do my own stuff, but that's a story for another day. Yes?
Oh, sorry, I was just resting my arm.
Oh. Yes, Doc.
Just in existing as a Black human being, there's this overarching feeling of invisibility that we all